Umamusume。彼女たちは走るために生まれきた。時の地域で特に輝かしい歴史を持つ。で、世界の名前と共に生まれ、その魂を受け継いで走る。それが彼女たちは運命。この世界に生きる馬娘の未来のレース結果、まだ誰にもわからない。彼女たちは走り続ける。瞳の先にあるゴールだけを目指して。
Uma, horse, musume, girl. Combine them together and you get Umamusume, horse girls. Now, for longtime viewers who haven't tapped into my Discord, or if you're just simply a new viewer, you may be wondering what prompted me to make this video. I was bored. Look, I'm not one to shy away from my interests, and yes, I am a real person who does other stuff than Titanfall 2. So why not make at least a unique video combining these two forms of media? And with that, I hope you guys enjoy this video as we dive into the what if Umamusumes existed in Titanfall. So to start, we should probably address the we should probably address the horse in the room. Horse girls. Umamusume. What the hell is this? Well, the Umamusume franchise is all about real-life horses, or rather their anime girl counterparts. Throughout the different forms of media, we follow the stories of the aspiring Umamusume as they race through the careers, with their stories often mimicking real-life events, outcomes, or at least are partially inspired by them. For example, let's talk about Oguri Cap. In real life, Oguri Cap is famously well known as a legendary Japanese racehorse with the moniker Grey Monster. Rising from local races to dominating national Grade 1 races, Oguri was seen as an underdog, and along with two other horses, he formed the Heisei Big Three. These horses would go on to define their era and were responsible for initiating a big boom in mainstream interest in horse racing. And some other fun facts are Oguri Cap earned the nickname Idle Horse thanks to drawing crowds who watched the races for more than just race betting, and was one of the first racehorses to have plush dolls made in his image. You know, a form of merchandise that is now commonplace. Oh, and he was known to be quite a glutton. Now, imagine this story, but if Oguri Cap was an anime girl. As ridiculous as it sounds, through the creativity of the setting and some freedom of expression on the creator's side, creating a compelling story with interesting characters that represent real-life happenings through the lens of mainstream media like anime really works. The real Oguri Cap is a glutton. Okay, make the anime girl Oguri a glutton as well. The real Oguri Cap started in local and regional races. Okay, make the anime girl Oguri also start running in those races. Oh, and also make her story more compelling by making her legs weak as a child, but her mother massaged her legs daily to help strengthen her muscles, and because of this, Oguri Cap gained the ability to walk, and thus developed a love for running. And if you watch the anime and are knowledgeable about the races that the real Oguri ran, you can technically spoil the results of the races in the anime if you look up the real races, which is so awesome to me. Cygames really does respect these horses, and by adapting part of their stories into media such as this, more people can truly appreciate the real horses themselves. But now, let's talk about the real details. In the Umamusume universe, horses do not exist. However, these quote-unquote horse girls have existed alongside humans for much of history. And alongside inheriting horse features like tails and ears, they've also inherited super strength, speed, and stamina comparable to a real-life horse. And they're no strangers to society. And universe, culture, society, and technology has evolved with them in mind. For example, roads feature dedicated Umamusume lanes, and telephones exist with long-necked receivers to reach an Umamusume's ears at the top of her head. Some other things to note are, yes, relationships between humans and Umamusume do exist. Horse boys, or Umashonen, do not exist. Umamusume age like elves, which means they stop physically aging after a certain point, and not all Umamusume are racers. They could be singers, chefs, trainers, and, well, they could also be soldiers. The universe of Titanfall is very much advanced. We've got space elevators, giant mechs, and portable black holes, and with the presence of Umas, things would most certainly be different. For example, if we're talking the structures of an army, aka the IMC and the militia, there would definitely be changes. Since Umas are pretty much guaranteed to be naturally stronger, sturdier, and faster than the average human, they would be great candidates for combat pilots. And when it comes to piloting Titans, there really isn't a huge difference, but for boots on the ground action, oh yes, there is definitely a difference. Going into Titanfall 2, if we install a speedometer and sprint forward, we can see we're running 23 kilometers per hour, or about 14 miles per hour for my fellow Americans. Taking some liberty, let's just say that this is the average speed for a human pilot running at their fullest. You count stim into the equation, we're going 42 kilometers or 26 miles per hour. You wanna guess how fast the average Uma runs at top speed? 70 kilometers an hour, aka 43 miles per hour. That's about 3 times faster. Now start incorporating the jump kits and the actual capability to do combat, Umas far surpass the human pilot. I won't get into simulacrum pilots, but from what I've seen around the web, they seem to only be a bit better than the regular pilots, so I think it's safe to say Umas are standing at the top. But let's not stop just at pilots. Despite what people have to say about Apex, Apex manages to explore more lore of the Titanfall universe that is genuinely interesting, and specifically, it touches upon a darker subject. Human experimentation. In the Wraith cinematics, we can see that the IMC had constructed many military research operations, and that Wraith herself was a test subject. Makes you wonder, would the IMC experiment on the bodies of Umamusume? Would they try to biologically enhance them more? Would they try to turn humans into Umamusume? Or hell, would the IMC try to ostracize them for being different from humans altogether? There's a lot to explore. In terms of society, races wouldn't just be national now. They would be interplanetary. If stuff like the Apex games could take off, then the potential for Uma racing would be insane. Also, with Umas probably being so widespread, a lot of them would probably be pioneers for frontier exploration, and I imagine a lot of the famous figures in the Outlands would feature them as such. Now let's think of this scenario in a more organic light. Imagine this. Before Titans would dominate standard warfare, the early groups of what would be known as the IMC would be researching bio-augmentation. Through brutal trial and error, these scientists would find that humans, specifically women, would mesh well with horse genes, thus the end result being a human with enhanced strength, speed, and stamina, with their trademark being the ears and a tail. Of course, human experimentation is highly dubious, and thus experimentation was shut down due to lab leaks and the morality of the whole thing once it got out to the public. This would also explain why there would be no Umashonen, or Uma boys, due to the lack of further experimentation. For the now free Umamusume, they're no longer able to become regular humans, but otherwise, they can still reproduce and live normally. So they do. And don't worry, they wouldn't be allowed to join any kind of military force. At least not yet. Time passes forward in the frontier, and eventually Umas become a central part of society. Colonies celebrate Umas as local celebrities, races become commonplace, legendary legacies and lineages start to form, and eventually the FRL, or the Frontier Racing Leagues, would be formed. This league would become the most watched non-combat event in the frontier, as Umas would be racing through exciting places like abandoned cities, mega canyons, and scrapyards as big as the eye could see. But as conflict rises and the frontier wars erupt, eventually, Umamusumes would be feared for their potential. Imagine being the IMC. At first, your past experiments, Umamusumes seem harmless. They're not militarized and they're culturally beloved by everyone. But then, as a suit of the office, you start to realize something. Colonies are uniting under Umamusumes. They're becoming a core symbol of the frontier, and they're not happy that you, the IMC, are trying to claim their worlds. So, what do? Try to claim them as military assets? Push propaganda framing them as unstable, unsafe, and too different from humans? Try to quietly phase them out of existence? No matter what, this pushes the Umas towards the malicious side, not just as soldiers in a time of need, but as icons. But you're just one guy at the megacorp. You don't decide everything. And so, the IMC attempt to redefine Umamusumes as strategic military assets. They mandate registrations and genetic audits, and they try to restrict interplanetary racing. Of course, this doesn't sit well with the frontier worlds. Colonies riots, people become sympathetic in the core worlds, and even neutral worlds are starting to shift. While the militia never officially recruited the Umamusumes, they were quietly being protected. And then a tragedy becomes the final nail in the coffin. During a sanctioned Frontier Racing League championship, an IMC Titan battle group opens fire on a course thought to be strategic infrastructure. However, this results in 3 Umamusumes dying mid-race. The footage spreads. In mere hours, the militia gains mass civilian support. The race is never finished, and now the course remains untouched. The uncrossed line. And that's it! I mean, I could probably write more, but I'm a little lazy. I hope you guys enjoyed this little Clash of Fandoms though, because I certainly had a fun time writing it. Like, subscribe, join the Discord, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.